Alors que nous redémarrons notre économie en toute sécurité au milieu d'une crise sanitaire mondiale, la pandémie de COVID-19 continue de transformer la société canadienne. À quelques mois de la probable mise au point de vaccins, la lutte contre ce virus est loin d'être terminée et nous ne pouvons nous permettre de perdre le moindre terrain gagné. Le discours du trône a clairement indiqué que la principale tâche du gouvernement fédéral est de maintenir les Canadiens en bonne santé tout en construisant une économie plus résiliente, des priorités qui vont de pair. As the speech from the throne indicated, our government's first priority will always be the health and well-being of Canadians. We must crush COVID and breathe life back into the health of our economy. Our government continues to focus on limiting the social and economic impacts of the COVID-19 crisis by maximizing our chances of defeating the virus. And to do this, we need Canadians to be ever more disciplined, to be even more respectful of public health guidelines. We all have a role, and we are all key players in the Team Canada approach. And we need our government to keep doing what we're doing. Supporting Canadian research and biomanufacturing, working closely with researchers and scientists to better understand the COVID-19 virus, investing in the development of several promising vaccine candidates, and ensuring that we can manufacture and distribute enough vaccine to as many Canadians as possible, as quickly as possible. This is what we've been doing, and that is a key focus of the speech from the throne. We've signed agreements in principle with so many leaders in vaccine development, following the recommendations from the nonpartisan COVID-19 Vaccine Task Force. Madam Speaker, the late John Turner once said that life is like a trust, and everyone has a fiduciary obligation to give back what one has received from it. Well, our government knows that now is the time to give back to Canadians particularly who are suffering. And it's our fiduciary obligation to secure access to safe vaccines for Canadians, vaccines that will be subjected to rigorous Health Canada assessment and approval processes. We are fulfilling this fiduciary obligation to Canadians. Le Premier ministre a également annoncé le financement de la création d'une nouvelle installation de biofabrication au Centre de recherche en thérapeutique en santé humaine à Montréal. Certainement, dans mes fonctions comme secrétaire parlementaire pour l'innovation, sciences et industrie, je suis ravi de voir comment cela nous permettra de garantir la capacité de notre pays à produire suffisamment de vaccins pour les Canadiens qui en ont besoin, comme les travailleurs de première ligne, les travailleurs de soins de longue durée et les personnes les plus vulnérables. Un vaccin contre la COVID-19 sera fondamental pour mettre fin à cette pandémie, relancer pleinement notre économie et renforcer notre résilience. C'est ainsi que nous avancerons en adoptant une approche durable pour notre relance économique. Notre travail là-dessus continuera sans arrêt. Madame la Présidente, de nombreux Canadiens ont repris le travail, mais beaucoup d'autres sont en difficulté et ne savent pas s'ils conserveront leur emploi alors que la crise se poursuit. Nous comprenons ces craintes et nous sommes déterminés à aider les Canadiens à conserver leur emploi tout en s'attaquant aux nombreuses inégalités auxquelles sont confrontées quotidiennement les personnes de couleur, les populations autochtones et d'autres groupes vulnérables. This is exactly why the speech from the throne makes clear our intention to extend the Canada wage subsidy till the summer of 2021 and to reform the employment insurance system to protect all Canadians. We must, we are, and we will continue to support all Canadians through this dual health and economic crisis. This is precisely what the speech from the throne states. We must govern with a laser-like focus on the present, every day for Canadians. But we also owe it to present and future generations, especially to our children, to the youngest generation, to govern through COVID-19 and rebuild with a view to the reality of climate change. Our government's speech from the throne does just that. We will not fall victim to what some have called the tragedy of the horizon, by losing sight of that other global crisis of climate change. We can and we will govern with both eyes focused simultaneously on the present COVID-19 crisis and on building back a cleaner, more competitive and inclusive Canadian economy. As the Prime Minister recently commented, just because we're in a health crisis doesn't mean we can neglect an environmental crisis, a climate crisis for which we all know there is no vaccine. So Canadians are looking to our government to build back in a way that considers human and economic health in light of the impacts of climate change. As the speech from the throne clearly indicates, we are doing just that, building on important measures to cut greenhouse gas emissions, maximize efficiency and energy conservation, and driving the transition to a clean economy, offering job opportunities for Canadian workers and Canadian businesses in every region and in every industry. Madam Speaker, for 5 years, while public debate was consumed with polarized, partisan rhetoric on carbon prices and pipelines, our government implemented many low-carbon industrial policy shifts and ramped up clean technology investments by 50% at Sustainable Development Technology Canada. It's one of our government's most positive climate action stories that no one seems to have heard about. From phasing out coal-fired electricity, moving towards banning single-use plastics, to preparing national building code reforms and a $5,000 electric vehicle rebate, more changes are on the way to deliver a path to net zero emissions by 2050. Of course we need to do more, and we will. We will continue to invest historic amounts in both basic and applied scientific research, including COVID and climate science, within the federal government and within post-secondary institutions. And as the speech from the throne clearly commits, in the upcoming parliamentary session, we will deliver on our commitments to enact climate legislation with binding 5-year targets to meet and exceed our Paris targets for 2030. We will also legislate Canada's goal of net zero emissions by 2050. This is climate action. And we will table legislation to tighten federal regulation of toxic substances. I look forward to the right to a healthy environment being enshrined in Canadian law, once and for all. We will keep putting a price on pollution, while putting that money right back in the pockets of Canadians. It can't be free to pollute. The government will ban single-use plastics, as previously mentioned, and we need to make sure we've got the best science behind it, so that decisions to do so won't be overturned in Canadian courts. All of this will drive market opportunities and job creation in the green economy, further enabling our economic recovery. Dans le cadre de notre plan, tel qu'énoncé dans le discours du trône, notre gouvernement du Canada prévoit les mesures suivantes. Créer des milliers d'emplois dans la rénovation des maisons et d'immeubles, ce qui permettra de réduire la facture énergétique des familles et des entreprises canadiennes. Investir dans la réduction des effets des catastrophes climatiques comme les inondations qui ont tant affecté mes commettants dans la circonscription de Pontiac, pour rendre les communautés plus résilientes. Favoriser la mise en place d'un plus grand nombre de solutions de transport en commun et de transport actif, ce qui appuiera notre tourisme récréotouristique dans l'Outaouais et à travers le Canada. Rendre les véhicules zéro émission plus abordables et plus accessibles et investir dans l'élargissement de l'infrastructure de recherche à l'échelle du pays. Et appuyer des investissements dans les énergies renouvelables et dans les solutions et technologies d'énergie propres de la prochaine génération. Notre gouvernement fera en sorte que nous serions la destination la plus compétitive du monde pour les entreprises de technologie propre. So in conclusion, Madam Speaker, the speech from the throne has charted a solid path forward. We will protect Canadians' health, we will preserve jobs, and we will focus on the crisis of COVID here and now while not losing focus on the climate crisis that we must tackle for the future. Thank you, Madam Speaker.